and then you can do two. Um, so New York City's unemployment rate as of March was 11%. Staten Island 9.8%. What's your plan to bring us back to the historic lows of like 2019?
Well, first and foremost, we've got to get safety under control and we've got to get kids back into school because those are fundamental for getting people to go back to their offices. You can't go to work if you still have to proctor Zoom school. Uh, and that drives a lot of business activity, but I have a plan to support small businesses with giving them access to the public realm, but also with low interest loans, one city permit for anyone who's a small business owner, having to go to DOB and DP and every other portion of the alphabet soup before you actually get to sell a bowl of soup.
Right.
There's a way to do that better, to do it using technology and changing our business rules, but also promoting small businesses across the city. They are 50% of our private sector economy. We need to bring those back, but we also just need to say we're open for business.
Right.
We need art and culture and restaurants thriving because that keeps people in New York, that brings people to New York, and that makes people want to visit.
Right. Gina?
Hey, we have another question from a board member. Joe Torres asks, when reflecting back over the course of your close working relationship with our current mayor, what would be your highest praise and your harshest criticism of Mayor de Blasio?
My highest praise was I do think that pre-K was incredibly successful. My criticism would be nothing else actually seemed to be something he cared about getting done after that.
That's right.
Going to Iowa was not a great idea. And it sort of rolled out on how do you make plans for things that were going to impact the lives of New Yorkers, whether or not that was what was going to happen with school or how we were going to roll out vaccines.
So he has the second part to this question. What would you do if you were to become mayor to preserve the benefit of his most praiseworthy accomplishments, so the pre-K, and to repair the negative impact of what transpired as part of the harshest criticism that you gave him?
So I am very supportive of pre-K and expanding to 3K. Our youngest kids have really thrived in those programs. They've been ready for school, for learning how to read, learning how to do math. But I fundamentally manage differently than the current mayor. You need to have strong, smart, energetic people around you that you empower, and then you hold rigidly accountable for delivering on the mission. You also got to show up on time, and you got to roll up your sleeves. You got to work hard.
Okay, so this question comes from our chairman, Ralph Branca, who also works at Northfield Bank. The SIEDC has proposed several projects to help alleviate the transportation logjam on Staten Island. I believe we sent it to your team a few weeks ago. That includes the West Shore Light Rail, Skyway, and our gondola initiative. Will you be supportive of these proposals and help shepherd them past the conceptual phase?
So I am very supportive of things that help Staten Island with traffic. I've certainly spent my share of time, on Victory or on other of your streets backed up.
Right.
And I am definitely supportive of the light rail and the Skyway. The gondola one, I'm still working my way through, but I also think that we need to be thinking about what we can do with ferries. And how can we have access, particularly off the western portion of the North Shore, as well as off the South Shore, and interconnections not only to Manhattan, but there is a big back and forth flow to Brooklyn.
All right, the next question comes from our Senior Vice Chairman, Stanley Friedman. And it's a bit of a long question, but I'll hang in there with me. Your long and dedicated experience in managing and actually running the executive branch of our New York City government is obviously second to none among all the candidates. This puts you in a unique position of personally knowing everyone in key positions in City Hall and the many city agencies. Will you be strong enough to ask for resignations from and be able to bring in the best and the brightest to turn our city around in these difficult times?
Oh, I mean, I want to have an administration that is my own administration. And that means we have to have the best and the brightest, because also we have so much work to do.
Right.
And it is going to be just really tough work to make it happen.
Yeah, because the second part of that question is, you know, getting rid of those in city government who have failed us over the last 8 years. I could tell you from an economic development point of view that there are at least 30 projects announced under the de Blasio administration that either never happened or failed, like our New York Wheel Initiative and some others. And the list grows even further if you look at those that have struggled. And that's just one borough, one outer borough in New York City, with 30 projects over an 8-year period. And look, I mean, we were, for the most part, supportive of all of them from an economic development point of view. Like, they all would have brought more jobs and more revenue, and obviously got a lot of vacant properties up and running, which is good for a lot of reasons. But none of them happened. And, you can't blame everything on the mayor. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the people that are in government. So I think all of us are looking for a significant change in commissioner level and the mid level of government. So we're counting on you for that.
Right. And I mean, I would still say that it matters who's in the mayor's chair to hold your commissioners accountable. But we do need change. We do need to make it so that the status quo is not okay, because it's not working.
Gina?
We have a question from one of the representatives from one of our cultural institutions who preferred to remain nameless. And the question is, it's actually two parts. In the midst of COVID, Department of Cultural Affairs announced that funding will be cut for fiscal year 22. This is the first we've ever seen something like this. Will you allocate funds to DCLA to continue supporting culturals for their capital improvement needs? And if elected, will you promise to tour the beautiful and enriching cultural institutions of Staten Island in your first 6 months in office?
Yes, and I've been to lots of your cultural institutions. Probably the only candidate who's been to Old Richmond Town and Snug Harbor and, places across the island. And not only do I commit to make sure that we're funding them appropriately, but also when we actually put capital money in the budget, we're not going to make you take out a loan because we're not releasing it. If it's in the budget, we're releasing it so we can get the project started, because I don't want you to be financing New York City government.
Caesar, I know that it's your turn, but can I just tag one on question onto that, because we do
Is
have
the
a second.
Sorkin question?
The Sorkin question.
Go ahead.
And so this comes from Arlene Sorkin, who says, I am the CEO of a small nonprofit. I currently have 7 contracts with the city, 3 with DCA, 2 with the Department of Health, and 1 with the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. As of now, 11 months into the fiscal year, only 1 contract is registered, for which I have been reimbursed 80%. I am owed almost $250,000, which is half of my budget, for school programs we provide that are ending. If I didn't have my 2 PPPs and my EIDL loan, it would have been impossible to continue operating. COVID has slowed things some, but there have always been delays. We are told that agencies are short-staffed and they are unable to process contracts in a timely manner. What is your plan to speed up that process?
So this is one that I always find shocking, because I've lived in, the hard services side of the world. People don't give you salt if you don't have your contract registered and are ready to pay them. And somehow in the social services world, it's okay not to get the work done to make it so that the contracts get registered and that you can pay the invoices. When I'm mayor, we're going to actually do what other agencies do right now, because clearly it's possible, is making sure that we get our contracts registered in a timely fashion and people get paid. And there might be some work to do, because I know part of this, the controller has been really difficult with the social service contracts. But then that's where you got to use the bully pulpit to talk about the fact that, these are ready to go, you need to do them. And
Well,
that's not, you got to just deem them registered.
Yeah, it really is an issue, not just with culturals. I mean, we run the Economic Development Corporation. We have a few $100,000 in contracts with small business services. And every year for the past 20 years, we do not see any money till May or June.
We're not registered yet ourselves.
Yeah,
And it's
I
May
understand that.
24th.
and it's nothing to do with us. We send it in right away.
Yeah.
For the most part, it really is the same contract every year. It's the same rent amount, same salary amounts, and so forth. You're just basically cutting and pasting what you submitted the previous year. They've had it for now, what, Gina, 10 months?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And
more than that, more than that.
it's a real problem. And for years, we always thought, oh, that's just the city holding on the money. Because when you add up all those contracts, it's a lot of money in interest the city's making, in the bank. But we're now convinced it's much more than that. It's about just lack of use of technology in a proper way, and a little bit of incompetence and a little bit of laziness.
Yeah.
And that has been our experience, and not just us, all the groups. But all right, so there clearly were people who didn't get their questions in on time who are now texting me, and maybe they're going too fast with their texting. So I'm gonna read this out. Property tax reform. It has been bogged down for at least 6 years. A commission has issued a report. There is a lawsuit that's going to the appellate court, and a complaint has been filed with the federal government. With no official property tax rate increases taking place, Staten Island taxes go up every year.
So
Are
do
you
mine.
familiar with this issue?
Yes, so do mine, by the way.
And Brooklyn taxes too.
Yeah, though we probably, there is so much inequity in our property tax system. It's pretty stunning. We need to start again. And this will also require, we're gonna have to work with the state on it, but I want to be at the forefront of saying people need to think it's fair, and people need to feel that it's equitable. We have to live within our means. We don't have to make the entire tax roll go up every year. We can choose the assessment percentage.
Well, let me ask you, when you talk about equity, is it safe to say, and no one really wants to talk about this issue, but if you look at city government surplus leading up to COVID and how we survived COVID with very few layoffs, isn't it safe to say that there is enough money in city government? The city of New York does produce enough revenue to have some property tax relief or reductions? Don't you think there's enough surplus hasn't that been demonstrated over the last 8 years?
So I think we were producing surpluses. I don't know where we are right this second.
Yeah.
Because I honestly don't know where we are in terms of the property tax revenue and what's really coming in. But we need to make it so that it is completely fair. And we need to remember that we're taxpayers. And taxpayers should have good value for their money.
I'm going to have you go next, but I just want to ask one thing. I saw I don't know if it was a news report or a commercial, you did something with Andrew Yang where he said that of all the other candidates in the race, if he were to win, he would like you and his administration. Is there anyone running for mayor against you that you can say the same about? That if you were mayor, you would take them in your administration?
Well, no, probably not. I think I could.
That's pretty honest answer. All right, Gina.
I'm sorry, I'm just really direct.
That's good. That's good.
We like to direct. We like direct. Okay. This was a second question from Ralph Branca, our chairman. As I said, I'm just going down my list in order of what I have. And his question was, the recently announced reduction in speed limits on some of Staten Island's major thoroughfares goes against the public's wishes and are opposed by local politicians. Will you listen to what Staten Island wants and not apply a Manhattan-centric approach to policymaking?
So I absolutely will listen to what Staten Island wants, but I'll also follow the data. Is this something that's making it safer for the children of Staten Island, or is it not? Why are we making the change? What is it based on?
This next question comes from Ed Birdie, who's one of our board members from the Power Authority. Staten Island was hit incredibly hard by Hurricane Sandy and suffered a very high loss of life.
Mhm.
What are your plans related to shoreline resiliency?
Yeah, and it's shocking that really nothing has happened since Hurricane Sandy. The seawall that was supposed to be down by Mill Road should have been done by now. And we need to look at all of the shorelines of Staten Island to protect it, either with hard or soft infrastructure. The blue belts on Staten Island have been very effective about dealing with flooding. Where are there opportunities to do more of that? But we need a full Staten Island approach to protect people from being inundated and, the incredible loss of life that occurred.
Ina, you want to go next? You want to go?
Sure thing. Yes, I've got a question from Carol DeCina. She is a board member of ours from National Grid. And she says, National Grid is very supportive of the city and state goals related to the decarbonization net zero project. In New York City, we are strictly a gas company. What are your thoughts on renewable natural gas versus full electrification?
Well, I like renewable natural gas if we can make it out of food scraps that the city will be collecting once again when I am mayor.
On that note, I remember in the 1980s living in Brooklyn. I was actually living in Borum Hill at the time.
Mhm.
They had these black garbage cans for putrescible waste. You remember those?
Mhm.
And but they didn't work out too well. I think there was a rodent problem. I know they were testing it in the slope in Borum Hill. But tell me what your plan is.
I mean, and all of Staten Island, One actually had the food scrap collection at the curb in the brown bin. We were actually serving 3.5 million people when the mayor canceled the program. So it was
Wow.
highly successful.
Which mayor?
This mayor canceled.
This mayor? Well, I don't
Yeah.
even remember that program, but okay. Gina, I'm out of questions, so I'm gonna go just.
I have a couple more.
But I do want to ask tell, what are the difficulties of being a woman running for mayor of the city of New York? Do you see the difficulties or the differences?
The real difference is in some ways how the press treats you. You are not viewed as a viable candidate in many cases, even if you have the ability. Whereas some of the guys, I would say, don't have to be looked at through that lens. Yeah, they're just accepted as being able to do that job, even if they have no demonstrated experience for being able to do that job.
Very good. Gina?
Okay. This one comes from Devoni Coogan, and she says, related to schools, you brought it up earlier. What is your plan for schools? We would like masks and vaccines optional, schools back to normal with lunch, recess, classroom changes, and field trips.
Yes, we need kids to have school again. And not only that, we need to make an investment in ensuring that they have art and music and theater and sports in every school. Because it's been an incredibly hard year. We have to engage with every child in various different ways. And we also need to make sure that we have mental health services. We don't know how the trauma of the pandemic will play out. We don't know if we'll have kids who are depressed or kids who are aggressive because they're dealing and coping with things at home, or they may have lost a loved one. Many people who are going to be our students next year have lost a parent or guardian. But we need school and kids need school. They can't lose another year.
I got the text messages coming in, so
Okay.
we could have just did it this way. If you are elected mayor, what is your proposal or plan for dealing with the increase in the homeless individuals on the streets of the city of New York right now, which everyone would agree is a growing population?
We have seen a lot of growth in street homelessness as well, though less so growth in the family homelessness, but that's probably due to the eviction moratorium. But for street homeless, we know that there's a model that works. Supportive housing with services on site actually works. And we need to actually ensure that we have that available to every person on the street. I was actually talking to someone who was formerly homeless, and I was like, did the outreach teams come by? And she said, yes, 20 times. And at a certain point, if they're offering you a shelter bed in a congregate setting and you keep saying no, there's a reason. You don't want that. What you really want is even some sort of SRO type housing situation. So you have at least a door to your single room occupancy apartment, but then
Right.
you have the chemical dependency services, and then job services there, so you can get back on your feet, become a tax-paying citizen again.
I agree with you that having the supportive services on site is the key, but the difficulty there is getting neighborhoods and community boards to accept those types of facilities in their areas. I mean, we've seen it right now. There's a plan to build, I think it's 100-unit homeless shelter with supportive services in Tompkinsville. And that's just, I think, women and children, and it's being met with a lot of opposition. How do we overcome that and come up with a fair plan and so forth?
Yeah, I thought that was single men, actually, the one in Tompkins.
Is it single men?
I thought it was single men,
I
but
might have it backwards. I'm not sure, but yeah.
right. And shelters are not the answer. You got to deal with the fact that they need permanent housing, and to not be in the shelter system, which is destabilizing for neighborhoods and destabilizing for those families.
Gina? You got anything?
I too am getting questions fast and furious on my phone here. So we are going to give you the next one. Is going to be from Jacqueline Tacarante of JFT Media. She's one of our members of our Executive Women's Council. And she asks, how do you plan on helping minority women businesses when less than 2% of the city funding came to Staten Island? And I believe that means city contracts that she's referring to.
Okay. So women entrepreneurs need to be supportive. With loans, with mentorships, so that you understand the city contracting process, and so that you are first in line to be able to get those businesses, but also making sure we find the matches between the buyers and the sellers. All the buyers are in the agencies, and they often, the small business services database is not very helpful to a buyer. And I actually personally had to rebuild a whole separate database to make sure that we had an MWBE database of who could actually do the work for us. That is the type of thing that needs to be taken citywide.
Could you spend a moment talking about this voting ranking system? Because I think a lot of our members don't understand how it works. I have to tell you, I struggle with it a little bit too.
It is designed so that I, as a voter, I would tell you, don't overthink it. You get to choose 5 in the order that you want them. Just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't worry about the rest of it.
But you don't have to do that, right? You could just pick one.
You just pick one.
Right.
And so what happens, which is the technical side of it, for the voter doesn't have to worry about anything else besides pick your top 5. And then once they start the count, which they are not going to even start until July 12th.
Wow.
So they're not going to count these ballots till July 12th.
So we won't know who the next mayor is till July 12th or 13th.
Or later.
Or later. See, I didn't know that either.
They're likely to hand count them with baskets. I can't believe I actually have to say that.
Like in church on Sunday?
But what happens is, so there's going to be the list of all the candidates. If nobody's over 50%, the bottom candidate drops out, and you take all their number 2s and you redistribute them. And if someone's not 50%, you take the next person and all their number 2s and redistribute them. And then you go, like, that's the process. So it looks like, people end up getting votes from, other people's first.
So their number 2s count as individual votes for the top candidate.
Yep.
Once they drop out.
Once they drop out, whoever comes in next. So for example, there is actually paperboy prints is on the ballot. I don't think he's going to get a tremendous number of votes, but the people who vote him number one, whoever is the number two on that ballot, like if Joe votes for me number two, then I then get Joe's vote when Paperboy gets eliminated.
And so how many candidates are in the race total right now?
There are eight top candidates, and then there's another couple of others who are,
Right. So come July 12th, they'll start knocking out number 8, number 7, number 6.
well, they'll start with, I think, number 14, number 13.
Oh, they work all the way up that way. Oh, wow. Okay. Hope everybody, well, that definitely clears things up.
Voter, don't worry about it. Just choose your top 5.
Use your top 5. But you are voting for them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, it actually looks like a Scantron. So the names are down one side, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top, and they're
Okay.
tiny little bubbles.
Like Chad's and those other things.
I'm thinking more like a Scantron from high school.
Oh, okay. Gina, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. This comes from Robin Lefkowitz from Northfield Bank. It's rumored that the city of New York is debating an early retirement program to save money and to bring forward younger potential professionals. Do you believe this will happen, and what are your thoughts on the subject? And if the current mayor does not support this, would you support this under your administration?
So, I believe that could work, early retirement programs, but historically, they actually have ended up costing more money. Because the idea is that someone who's very senior retires, and so you're paying their pension, and then you're hiring someone who's so much less expensive to do the same job. That often doesn't end up how it is. Like, you end up having to hire someone who's just as expensive. So then you're paying for the salary and for the pension at the same time.
Why don't we do one more question and then we'll wrap it up. Kathryn can give us a closing statement and take it from there. You have a question?
I have one more from Bob Moore again. He says, the city is very aggressive in trying to eliminate any natural gas infrastructure. Why can't we build the renewable infrastructure and as it's built, cut back on fossil fuels? The government seems to very quickly deny pipelines and generation, but extremely slow to actually build renewable energy sources. Shouldn't we build and then close as opposed to cut supply and hope to build replacement energy resources?
Yes, so it's, I'll just put it this way. I was the only one who didn't sign the Green New Deal because I know that we still need natural gas hookups in the city. But I do want to see renewables come in, and we do have to make sure that we are pushing very hard to make, Rikers Island renewable Rikers, that we have hydro and solar from upstate as well as in city. And so that we have the power from offshore wind, and that we also are educating people to be able to take jobs in this industry.
Before we ask you to wrap it up, I am interested because of, really the great career you've had in government. What do you think led to all that? What happened early on in your career that made you prepared and so capable to run agencies? I mean, we're talking about some significant accomplishments that you've had in your career, but there had to be something at an early age or an early young career age that kind of led you on that path. You had to have something, had a click, some vision. I can do this. What do you know what that was?
I survived having, 4 siblings. But it was about really the support that I got on early on in my career from another woman about, you do belong in the room and you are quite capable of leading groups of teams. And that really, it drove me to where I am today.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll give you a chance to wrap up with a closing statement, but let me first just say that we really were appreciative of having you. So far, you're the only mayoral candidate that we've had present to our members, and we're very grateful. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I do love Staten Island. Actually, I sometimes make little fun of folks when from the island when I was like, you guys keep saying you're the forgotten island, and they're gonna find out about you, and then they're all gonna come. I was like, because you have a lovely island. I would not necessarily be like, oh goodness, we're forgotten. I was like, you're not forgotten. I've never forgotten you. But I am running in this race because I know that we need this economy to come back strong. And we need to have real economic opportunity for everyone and preparing our kids for the 21st century jobs, whether or not that's in life sciences or tech or film. It will be a very different economy than the one that you and I graduated into many moons ago. We also need to make sure we're making strategic investments. This has to be a place where we're making the city more livable, because I fundamentally believe that the difference in economic development now is business follows people and talent. It used to be that talent followed business. I believe it's fundamentally the other way. The more livable we make this city, the more dynamic we make this city, we will get and keep talent and grow talent here, and we will have the opportunities, because there's a reason there's a song like, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right.
It's supposed to be hard, it's supposed to keep you on your toes, but that's what makes it so exciting, and that's why I'm running to be New York City's next mayor.
Right. Well, thank you for being here and good luck.
Thank you. I'm
All
glad we
right,
got
bye-bye.
through our
Thank you.
problems.
Bye-bye.
Bye.